Gibson bashing has basically become a blood sport on the internet. Everyone's getting into it, whether you're on the forums, whether you're on social media, whether you're a content creator. And, you know, I think it's all pretty well justified. If you go and watch my video, The Worst of NAMM 2019, myself and Ryan from Plagueside Studios got into it a bit over the Gibson stuff. And I don't really want to rehash that in this video. I sort of more just wanted to put into context why I'm so frustrated with Gibson, because a few of you have simply accused me of just being a Gibson hater. And, you know, I obviously love playing my PRS guitars. I love playing my STR guitars, which are handmade instruments in Japan. And, you know, you kind of get the usual criticism, oh, you're just using cheap Asian knockoffs, or you're playing a PRS, it's soulless, all of which just make no sense to me and don't really stack up. They're the same arguments people have been making, you know, for like 30 years. So rather than like address all of that, I sort of just wanted to tell you guys why I actually like Gibson guitars. I own quite a few of them, but this one is definitely my favorite. This is a 2002, let's bring it back, Standard Premium Plus. Look at that top, insane. It's like as good as any custom shop flame that I've seen on a Les Paul, and it's actually a production run from 2002, so essentially, this guitar just vibes with me, and I'm sure that's why a lot of you people out there who own Gibsons that you vibe with go, oh, hey man, like, why are you crapping all over Gibson? I own a Gibson and it's great. And my point is, yeah, I own a Gibson. I own quite a few of them, and some of them are really great. For me, as a working musician, what I want is a functional instrument. It has to play good and it has to sound good. But to me, there are only like 2 out of 3 properties of a guitar that add up to sort of value for money, in my opinion. The other one is build quality. We're going to talk about the build quality stuff at the end of this video, but I just wanted to give you guys an example of why I think this guitar sounds so good. Here is this guitar running through my Axe FX on a clean sound, on a dirty sound. I know some of you are going to go, oh, Axe FX, digital, use a real amp, but just stop watching now if that's your attitude. If not, check out how wicked this guitar sounds. And quite frankly, playing that, doing those clips, it is a super inspiring guitar. I use this to record pretty much all the guitars on the Ragdoll Rewound album, so you can go and check that one out on YouTube or Spotify. Basically, this guitar, look at that flame, it's so good. Running into a Marshall DSL-50 was the tone. Pretty straightforward stuff. One thing though about this guitar is that I have literally changed everything on it except for the wood. The pickups are pickups made here in Australia by a guy called Martin A. Smith. They are really juicy sounding PAF replicas in the double cream, which I absolutely adore. I've put a Tone Pros locking tailpiece and bridge. I've put new machine heads on there. I should say the nut is original, the frets are original. And in a previous life, it had a bit of a hard life and got knocked around, so I don't know if you can see any of this, but there's been some sort of holes filled and stuff like that. And yeah, I've changed all the circuitry and stuff like that to really sort of get it going. And yeah, it does. It sounds great, but it didn't sound great or play that great straight out of the box. So that's kind of one criticism that I have with Gibson, is a lot of the time, you know, they're releasing these instruments where people just basically go and change all the parts. They use it as like a pickup platform or a hardware platform, the same way you might buy an amp and use it as a pedal platform. But I'm one of those guys who I want to buy a guitar and I want it to work straight away, or at least be 90-95% there, not like 70-75% there. So, I mean, this is, for me, the early 2000s for Gibson. They were making great instruments, and it's like they've just kind of overthought the whole process. And you know, without getting into all the whole corporate structure stuff and all the, you know, controversy that's gone around with what they've done recently. You can go and watch my video, The Worst Are Now in 2019, if you want to hear all of that. But yeah, it sounds really, really great. I love this guitar. I wish Gibson was still making guitars of this quality, because I haven't really played one recently that stacks up to this guy. The thing is, though, I also own a bunch of other instruments at varying price points which sound really good. Sure, they sound different, they have a different voicing, but through the same rig. Let's have a listen to my PRS SC245, which for me is my main squeeze for what I do with Ragdoll. It's a slightly darker, growlier sounding guitar. We'll have a listen to that. We'll have a listen to my PRS McCarty, which I think sounds really close to this guy as well, but has a much higher build quality and is much easier to play, and I didn't really have to change anything on it, which I really like. And then we'll have a listen to my STR, which is made at the Deviser factory in Japan, basically by hand. It's a true handmade instrument. I went and toured the factory in the middle of last year, and there are no CNC machines in there. And then after we have a listen to that, we'll just have a look at a close-up of some like factors which to me don't affect the sound or the playability, so I can live with them. But when it comes to like a value for money kind of perspective, it really goes to show that with Gibson you're not exactly getting value for money, because there's so many little things which could be tightened up. I'm sure you guys are going to have your preferences with those clips, but for me, they all sound really, really good. And more importantly, they're inspiring to play. So that's the whole point. Again, like, this guitar inspires me to want to play guitar and write music. And that's kind of not the case with so many other Gibsons that I've tried. I do a lot of teaching, a lot of my students own Les Pauls, and they kind of don't give me the same vibe, and so many that I've played in shops just don't give me the same vibe. And whether that's a case of the instruments themselves or that's the environment is definitely up for debate, but I know that the first time I played this guitar, it totally blew me away, and that's why I've been lucky enough to hang on to it. So let's have a look at some close-ups on this guitar of stuff like, you know, the detail around the nut and some finishing issues that I have with it, and compare that with my STR and my PRS stuff. So this doesn't affect the sound, it doesn't affect the playability, but to me it does affect the value of the instrument. It's these fine little things, the attention to detail. Look at how the finish is just running over the edge of the binding and running over the nut. That's just super sloppy, and to me, on a guitar that's, you know, made on CNC machines, shouldn't be happening, or it should be getting caught in quality control and ironed out. Furthermore, there's actually a very discernible gap between the nut and the binding here that you can feel, which you know, if you do get down here, you can feel. So that's kind of just an oversight. Let's have a look at my STR and my PRS to see if they share this, you know, this little quirk. Well, this is my STR, and you can see it certainly doesn't share the same problem. This nut is super smooth. It's cut by hand as well, and it's just done right. Another thing I really like on the STR, if it will focus, are the fret ends. They're really nicely smoothed and beveled, and you know, they don't have the fret tangs on the binding, which personally I'm not a fan of. You might be a fan of that, in which case you might not like this, but yeah, this fretwork is just absolutely unreal. I had a Plex scan of this guitar done when it came in straight out of the box, and it was pretty much perfect, and that's coming halfway across the world, across seasons, across totally different climates, and it's holding up. So another thing that, you know, straight out of the box, why aren't Gibson making their guitars play right while the STR stuff is making it play right? And hey, here's my PRS. That's really, really hard to make out. I apologize about the lighting there, but yeah, there's no finish going over the nut there. And the other thing on the PRS as well, which the Gibson doesn't have, is a straight string pull, which really affects tuning. So I've had a lot of tuning issues with that particular Les Paul. I love the way it sounds, but again, while it does sound great and play great, using it in the studio means I'm tuning up way more times than I am with the PRS. And finally, just for reference, this isn't a Les Paul style. This is my Hamer Standard, which is an Explorer style guitar. But ladies and gentlemen, this is how you finish a nut. Look at that. Perfect. It's done by hand. There is no gap between the fingerboard and the nut. There's no finish overrunning the binding or anything. Just absolutely primo work by Hamer. Real shame these guys have gone under. And of course, there's one manufacturer that I'm leaving out of this whole equation. It's Epiphone. Let's have a listen to an Epiphone, and we'll just compare side by side how it stacks up in terms of sound. Because the Gibson definitely plays better than the Epiphone. I think it's made... It's actually, yeah, it's definitely made better. There's a couple little things on the Epi, but I think the Epi sounds pretty great. And when you just want an instrument that you're going to record with or play live with, that's the big factor. Furthermore, I actually own a bunch of other Gibsons and some cool Gibson replicas as well, so I will put clips of those guitars at the end with annotations there. And, you know, I just wanted to show you guys that I'm not a Gibson hater. I actually love Gibson guitars, and that's why I find their new product line so frustrating, as well as their whole, like, corporate outlook. I wouldn't say I'm a Gibson hater, I would say I'm a Gibson skeptic, or a Gib skeptic, or, you know, some other horrible portmanteau of those words. But yeah, you know, this is also kind of like a love letter to this 2002 Standard Premium Plus. Gibson should make more guitars like this and not resign this to the upper echelons of the custom shop. This should be their production line. This should be their bread and butter. And they shouldn't be charging exorbitant prices for it either, because it's literally just taken the piss. Anyway, what do you guys reckon? If you're a Gibson lover or a Gibson hater, or like me, a Gibson skeptic, weigh in the comments, and you know, just let me know your thoughts. I'm always happy to have a discussion about this kind of stuff. And until next time, be safe, be good to one another, and here's some more clips of some of my other favorite Gibbo and Gibbo style guitars.